Mr. Speaker, I don't know who we think we are to assume that the people did not know what they were voting for on the same day they voted for us.
I present to you House Joint Resolution 73. This legislation is multifaceted. The preeminent facet is that it protects women. What Amendment 3 took away from them, this legislation seeks to restore. What is voted on by this body will help foster a culture of life in Missouri, one that all of our citizens can support.
I suppose they knew what they were voting for when they voted for us, but I would beg to differ, given that I've seen some of you all throw back a few at night. I've heard some of you talk about Jesus on this floor and talk about a woman's hind parts down at the bar. Who do we think we are? I've heard some of you read out loud. Now all of a sudden we know what's best for the people. It's funny when we dilly-dally and choose when the people know best and when they can't.
It's my contention that this is what many of the voters wanted who voted for Amendment 3. Missourians did not vote for abortion on demand at 9 months or past the age of fetal viability. This legislation will protect many infants in the womb and see a renewed focus on the sanctity of life, envisioning a culture of life in Missouri.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here, and apparently my vagina belongs to the state of Missouri. That's what State Representative Raychel Proudie had the guts to say, standing right there on the Missouri House floor. And she wasn't wrong.
I don't need you to sympathize with me. I need you to mind your business. I don't want sympathy. Leave me alone with for privacy until it's women. I want to get pregnant. I don't know if I have to ask the governor first, because obviously my vagina is not mine. It belongs to the state of Missouri, apparently.
She wasn't out of line. She wasn't exaggerating. She was telling the cold, hard truth about what's happening in this country right now. The brutal reality that some politicians want full control over women's bodies, over voters' choices, over democracy itself. And if they can't win fair and square at the ballot box, they'll rig the system, bulldoze the voters, and dare you to try and stop them.
I am sick and tired of people who think a IUD is a landmine, telling me that the people I live by didn't understand what they were voting for. When some of us don't know the difference between a hysterectomy and a mastectomy.
Last November, Missouri voters showed up and passed Amendment 3, a clear, simple declaration that women's reproductive rights deserve protection under the state constitution. They spoke loud and clear. But just months later, Republicans in the Missouri House turned around and introduced House Joint Resolution 73, a brand new constitutional amendment designed to rip those rights right back out from under the people who just voted for them. The man pushing it, a Republican who brags about making decisions from a biblical worldview, wasn't interested in what the voters wanted. He was interested in forcing his personal religion onto everybody else. And Raychel Proudie wasn't about to sit there quietly and let him get away with it. She stood up and laid it out for the whole country to hear. The hypocrisy, the ignorance, the disrespect for the voters, and the naked grab for power dressed up in the language of morality.
We got to pay for people's penis pills. I wouldn't even be halfway amenable if we said that we were going to stop paying for abortions if y'all leave us alone. You think you're stopping abortions with these ridiculous bills? You're not. You're stopping safe, legal abortions. People are going to still have abortions. So if you want to be pro-life, let's try being pro-quality of life first. This is the same body who wants to demand senior citizens work so that they can get unemployment or disability or have to apply for jobs. What are we talking about here? We're so busy being dystopian, we do very little for quality of life. You want to do something for the children? Do something for those foster kids. Let's close down these so-called religious rants where they feeling on the children. Let's do that first. Stop making it seem like a woman's worth is just between her legs. For God's sake, goodness gracious. We just had a hearing talking about abortion where we would charge a victim of rape and incest with murder while her rapist would get less time for violating her human rights. And y'all have the nerve to sit here and talk about science and think the world is 2,000 years old. And y'all gonna tell me about science. The same people who say, I don't believe in pronouns. I is a pronoun. Meritocracy. Power is to the people, and there should be some humility around here when we sit here and talk about what people don't understand. The only thing that people don't understand is the way y'all flip when you get here, telling them that you would be their voice when you get here, and then you decide to do the will of the people who write you checks.
This fight isn't just about Missouri. It isn't just about abortion. It's about the very heart of American democracy. Who gets to decide what happens to our bodies, our votes, and our futures? Raychel Proudie understood it. Jasmine Crockett down in Texas understands it too. These women aren't just fighting bad bills. They're standing between us and a tidal wave of white Christian nationalism trying to drag this country back to the dark ages. Proudie didn't pull any punches when she called out the hypocrisy sitting right there in the chamber. She reminded them she's heard some of these very same politicians stand on the House floor and preach about Jesus during the day, then head down to the bar at night and talk about women's hind parts without an ounce of shame. These aren't moral leaders. These aren't defenders of life. They're opportunists. Men who wear religion like a Halloween costume when it suits them and toss it to the corner when nobody is watching. She pointed out what everybody already knew, but few dared to say it out loud. That some of them struggle just to read their own bills aloud, but somehow think they're qualified to decide what's best for millions of Missouri voters. They don't respect the voters. They don't respect women. They only respect power and whatever it takes to hold on to it. It didn't stop there. Proudie tore into the blatant medical ignorance baked into these laws. She called out the fact that some of these lawmakers didn't even know the difference between a hysterectomy and a mastectomy. They think an IUD is some kind of a landmine. They have no clue how women's health actually works, but they're standing there, chest out, pen in hand, ready to sign away women's bodily autonomy as if they're experts. It's not just offensive. Folks, it's deadly. When the people writing your laws don't even understand the basic science behind what they're banning, people get hurt, families suffer, lives are ruined. And the politicians responsible, they shrug, they move on, they collect another check. Proudie wasn't done. She hit one of the deepest truths there is about politics in America. This isn't a meritocracy. This isn't about who's smartest or who works hardest or who tells the truth. It's a popularity contest, a rigged game where money, fear, and ignorance win more often than integrity ever does. The people who perform life-saving abortions, they earn their jobs through decades of study, sacrifice, and service. The people trying to ban them, half of the time, they couldn't pass a high school health exam. But in today's politics, facts don't matter. Only fear does. Only control does. Only dominance does. And Missouri's not alone. We've seen the same kind of courage down in Texas, where Representative Jasmine Crockett, another woman who doesn't flinch, stood on the House floor and called out the same corruption, the same attacks on women's rights, the same twisted games the far right plays when democracy doesn't go their way. Whether it's Ferguson, Missouri, or Dallas, Texas, the message is the same. Women of color are standing up, fighting back, and refusing to let these cowards drag this country backwards without a fight. They know what's really happening here. They know that what's wrapped in Bible verses and speeches about life is really just the same old poison. White supremacy dressed up in a Sunday suit. They're standing against a movement that would strip away the rights of anyone who doesn't fit their narrow, hateful vision of America. Women, Black Americans, immigrants, LGBTQ people, and the poor. Anyone who dares to live free. And we need to ask ourselves right here and right now, if voters show up, cast their ballots, and pass a constitutional amendment, and politicians overturn it, what the hell kind of democracy is that? If you scream about small government at every rally, why are you trying to build a government surveillance force to track women's pregnancies? If you call yourself pro-life, why are you cutting health care, cutting WIC, cutting food assistance, cutting everything that actually helps children after they're born? If you claim to stand for morality, why do you bend the knee to a man facing 34 felony convictions? A man who brags about cheating, lying, and disrespecting the very values you pretend to preach. This isn't about life. It's not about faith. It's not about protecting anybody. It's about power. It's about control. And it's about silencing the very people these politicians are supposed to represent. Raychel Proudie stood there and said the words they didn't want to hear. She made it real. She made it plain. She made them squirm in their seats. And she made every woman, every voter, every freedom-loving American realize exactly what is at stake. This isn't just a Missouri fight. This isn't just a woman's rights fight. This is the front line of the battle for the soul of this country. Because if these people are willing to steal a woman's right to her own body, if they're willing to wipe out the voice of millions of voters with the stroke of a pen, then there's no limit to what they'll take next. Raychel Proudie stood up. Jasmine Crockett stood up. Now it's our turn. Because if we don't fight like hell right now, the people who want to turn this country into a theocracy wrapped in a flag are going to win. And if they do, well, they won't stop with Missouri. They'll come for all of us, and that is an absolute fact. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.